Hello everyone, I'm back near the Kremlin. It is the street across the Kremlin. Very beautiful building. It's an art museum now. I think it used to be the House of Nobility, where like the Council of Nobles came. I'm pretty sure. I love those statues on the facade. Before I checked it out, I wanted to guess like when it was built, and I figured it was built in like the early 1800s, and then I checked and yep, it was built in like 1820, 21. So I was right. You can tell by the style of architecture when it was built. This is one of my favorite buildings. In Nizhny Novgorod. Like I said, I'm obsessed with neoclassical architecture. And this is a fine example of it. Let's cross the street. Oh, but no pillars. Actually. So, it's still a fine example of neoclassical architecture. These statues are holding up the balcony, which is really cool. I don't know who they represent, but doesn't say. Yeah, very cool. Maybe it's like Atlas holding up the earth. So, very nice. So today I want to talk about like the first time I came to Russia. So I had absolutely no interest in coming to Russia, and certainly not living in Russia. I didn't even have an interest in visiting. Why? Because the whole Russian thing was pushed on me too much by my relatives. Like, we'd come to visit my grandparents, and my father's stepfather, the first thing he'd say when he sees us, he'd yell at us, why don't you speak Russian? We spoke Russian, but not very well. And he'd yell at my father, like, why don't your kids speak Russian and all that? And if you don't speak Russian, just sit in the corner and shut up. So, visiting the grandparents basically meant sitting on the floor in the hallway and reading comic books. They actually had a good selection of comic books. And my uncle was that way too. So my family is like really Russophile. They love everything like pre-revolutionary Russia, and they're very Russian patriotic. And there's the moon. And I felt out of place because I didn't speak the language. I mean, Most of them were nice, I guess. But specifically my stepfather and my uncle. I'm not going to use names because, in case anybody of them is watching, but they'll know who I'm talking about anyway. I don't know. I just don't feel comfortable about using names. So we can see the moon here. You'll see the sunset soon. So yeah, I really love this building. Anyway, same thing with my uncle. We'd come to visit, and he'd shout at us, why don't you speak Russian? If you can't speak Russian, sit in the corner and shut up. Not a word of English in my house. So it was really annoying. And we felt really out of place. And I like my grandmother, she refused to learn English, even though she lived in America for like 30 years. She spoke Russian and German and probably French also. But she refused to learn English because she was like, I'm not American, I'm Russian, and I'm not going to learn English, okay? I don't know. Oh, we gotta get to the sunset before it goes down. Wow, it went down rather quickly. Okay, see the sunset? That's the sun setting over the Kremlin. So I'm walking towards the Kremlin now and towards the sunset. Oh, so that's interesting to know that the Kremlin is facing west. Oh, it's so beautiful. Yeah, cool. So yeah, about my grandmother, she was always, I remember, always kind of sickly. She would smoke cigarettes a lot. She'd like sit in an armchair, and we'd wait in line to say hello to her, and she'd ask us a few questions and give us a little chocolate Hershey kiss, like the candy, not what the other thing means, the other meaning of it. And that's about it. I remember on Easter going there and having a big meal with my grandmother and aunt, and that was nice. We had a big Easter meal. But in general, I don't really remember having like a normal conversation with my grandmother. Just like a couple of questions she asked, and I would answer in Russian, of course, and that's about it. So yeah, that's sad. And of course, my stepfather, we didn't know yet that he wasn't our real grandfather. We learned about that later, but still, I never felt like he was like my grandfather. I never liked him. Sorry to all my family out there, but he seemed like a real jerk. Okay. Oh, now the sun's going below the wall. Well, it's so beautiful. So yeah, that's the Kremlin in Nizhny Novgorod. So, anyway, the whole pushing to be Russian thing, and like they'd say, oh, when Russia is free from communism, it's your duty to return to the motherland. And because you're Russian, you're not American, even though we didn't speak the language well. And I was always like thinking to myself, hell no, I don't want to go live in Russia. I've had enough of Russia with my family. And of course, my dad was an Orthodox priest. And so we went to church all the time. Every Saturday night, Sunday morning, and all the services were in Russian, and all the like church people spoke Russian all the time, and so we basically grew up in kind of like a Russian society. Yeah, actually, and I still didn't learn the language, and I still don't, even living here for so long. Well, yeah, I speak it. I can make myself understood. I can understand. But no, I do not speak the language fluently because I resent being here. I don't want to be here, so I don't want to put the effort into learning the language. I'm not motivated. The last thing I want to do when I relax is think about Russia, pretty much, unless I'm in a beautiful place like this. Oh, I want to continue to see the sunset. Wow, that was really nice. Okay, let me try to get around the wall and see more sunset. So anyway, yeah, you know how like when your family or people like try to push something on you, like a certain like ideology or identity or even religion. My father pushed religion on me too much, and I just got sick of it and started to rebel. Especially as a teenager, as I started to rebel. And so the same thing, I just rebelled against Russian culture, or the whole idea that I'm Russian, right?
You have exercised for 5 kilometers in 103 minutes and 25
Okay, my stupid phone is telling me how far I walked. So yeah, I basically rebelled and rejected, and I embraced my German heritage instead. Because actually my dad was 3/4 German, because we found out that his father actually was German. He died in 1943 in Berlin. And my mother was half German, so I embraced the German side of my family. Because I was sick of Russian, I was sick of it being pushed on me. I was sick of my relatives, well, at least the stepfather and my father's stepfather and my Uncle George, like, kind of ostracizing us and making us feel bad because we don't speak the language and all that. Right? So yeah, I was just sick of it. So I'm like, fuck this. So I never wanted to come to Russia. I never even wanted to come to visit, let alone to live here. So, what am I doing stuck in America? Why did I say that? What am I doing stuck in Russia? An American stuck in Russia. By the way, I gotta change my name from Stuck in Russian to Stuck in Russia. My teenager student made a really funny remark about my name. He's like, do you know what that sounds like? And I'm not gonna repeat it here. I'm like, oh shit. Okay, beautiful building. Right across from the Kremlin. Okay, wow, the sun went down really quickly. Let me see if I can get some rays. It was still like really sunny, like, and then it went down like in 10 minutes, it sunk. So anyway, after the fall of communism, my eldest brother, he's the one who first came to Russia. And what he would do, he would work like 6 months in America in construction. And then he'd buy all kinds of stuff like American jeans and leather jackets, things that they didn't have in Russia at the time. And he'd come to Russia and sell them on the black market. And he would always tell me then he would live like a king. Okay, here's the sunset. Yeah, wow, the sun went down so quickly. But it's still beautiful, look at that. And so then he'd come back to America and work for 6 months. And then go back to Russia, sell everything, and live like a king again. Then he started his own business making log homes. And he started calling me all the time and begging me to come to Russia to work for him as his manager, because he says he can't trust Russians. They're all like cheats and scammers and lazy. So like if they're not supervised, they're not going to work. And I said, no, I have no desire to come to Russia, not even to visit. Because, yeah, okay, I'm sorry, but sorry to my family if anybody's watching, but yeah, I was traumatized by the whole Russian thing that my family put me through. So, yeah, I don't want to take a video of anyone. Wow, it's so beautiful. So I kept saying, no, I'm not going to come to Russia. And he was bugging me for like a year. I'm like, no. Fuck no. And he knows that I really love animals. So, he told me that, oh, we're working outside of Moscow in a village. And there are so many wild animals here that, like, all my workers need guns. And we all have guns, right? Because there's so many wild bears and wild wolves, right? And that we all have to carry guns. And I'm like, wow, that is so cool. That's awesome. Okay, I'm going to Russia. Absolutely, you convinced me, huh? So that's why I came to Russia for the first time. Because I wanted to see wild bears and wild wolves and be put in a dangerous situation where I would need a gun to protect myself from all the wild bears or wild wolves. I was so naive. And that's why I first came here. So I came here, and needless to say, the place where we were working, we're not crawling with wild bears and wild wolves, and nobody had a gun, and I wasn't given a gun. And so I worked for my brother, like basically just supervising the workers and just making sure they're working and everything. And I did say one wild bear. Some like hunters, or they captured it. So I guess there were some bears, because they captured a bear and they had it on a chain. They had it on a chain, and their dogs and tied to a tree, and their dogs were barking and everything at it. So okay, well, one bear, but yeah, that's the only one I saw. Anyway, so I worked for him for 3 months. I actually lived right near the Kremlin in Moscow, in like an artist studio. Yeah, it was an artist studio. And so not like a real apartment that my brother was renting. And then I came home, back to America, and so I'll talk about in another video. I'll talk about like what my first impressions were and if I had any culture shock. Yeah, there were some things that were like a culture shock. Still can't believe the sun went down so quickly. So, yeah, and then I went back in the winter. So I stayed in America for the fall, and I think I went back in the winter or maybe the next year. So I was going back and forth to Russia from America. So I would live in New York, and then I don't know. I don't know why I would go back and work for my brother. And then, wow, this is beautiful. So I'm walking down the stairs. I don't know where I'm gonna go next. Oh, I wanted to do a video in the middle, in the Kremlin. Wow, so nice. So yeah, that's the story how I first came, and then my parents moved to Russia in 2002 or 3, and that's a whole nother story. And so I would come to visit my parents and stay for a couple months, sometimes even 6 months, and then go back to America. So I was living like back and forth. But the first time I came to Russia was in 1997. Okay, I want to go down the stairs more. No, actually, I want to go up to the Kremlin. Or I can go up the stairs. Down the stairs. So this is the Volga River. Most of the ice has melted. And to the left there is the Oka River. You can see the reflection of the cathedral in the water. Wow, that's cool. Look at the reflection. That's Alexander Nevsky Cathedral. Cool. Yeah, I gotta admit, it's beautiful here. I'm glad I live in such a beautiful city. Like I said before, if I had to live in Russia, this is a good place to live. This or St. Petersburg. I wouldn't want to live in Moscow, really. Okay. Wow, man. This view is incredible. Okay, I guess I'll end the video there. I'm going to try to do a video from inside the Kremlin, if you're allowed to video there. I've done video there before, so I think so. Okay, so goodbye. Let's see if I can get a picture of myself in front of... Wait, how did I do that last time? Yeah, from the sunset. Hello, everyone. Is this working? Okay, so goodbye, everyone. До свидания. Auf Wiedersehen.